We're live on YouTube, live on the virtual trading floor. A lot going on right now, so let's do this disclosure. I am an associate member of T3 Trading Group, which is an SEC registered broker-dealer and member of FINRA SIPC. All trades placed by me are placed through T3 Trading Group. You should carefully consider whether trading is suitable for you in light of your own financial condition. Here is the position disclosure. Added on some of this TTI today. Shout out to Matt for the call out on that. And between the market closing and me starting this meeting, I got involved in Airbnb, which just came out with its earnings report. All right, let's get some charts up. Let's see what's going on with AMD also here. AMD much higher on its numbers here. What's Match doing? Match, no good. AMD, solid. This 155 is acting like a wall on this Airbnb since I got in. Now it looks like we just got above. There's heavy selling at 155. Let's see if it can hold above now. I just adore this company. I was reading the letter that the CEO put out for Airbnb. No, I bought it after the print, Justin. I bought it after the market closed. I was reading. Yeah, exactly. I was reading the letter that the CEO put out, I think just a few days ago, and what their policy is going to be for remote work going forward. And obviously it's Airbnb, so it's almost their business model. They want people to be able to have remote work and be able to work from Airbnbs from anywhere, a lot like what I've done. But it wasn't just that. It was just such a forward-thinking note that if most companies out there were to adopt a similar policy, I just really think it's the wave of the future, because they weren't like, okay, everybody's remote, 365 days of the year and go wherever the heck you want. It was like a long note. I read the whole thing that talked about the benefits of seeing people in person, but also the benefits of people being able to do their work from wherever they want to do it, and trying to find like the real right happy medium to be able to promote the getting together and the imaginative, I don't really know what the term I'm looking for is, but like the imaginative processes that can happen by people being with one another and being face to face and being able to have that kind of thought process, and the importance of relationship building and things like that, but also recognizing, hey, we're in a modern world, and everyone's able to do just as good with their work on a remote basis as they were ever able to do in the office, and it just opens up people's lives to be able to travel and go where they want, and removes that onerous commuting time that people have. I think your average person has a commute that's like an hour and a half each way to their office. I mean, that's 3 hours of your life every single day that just is evaporated, that you're in a car and you're spending money on that transportation, especially now at the price of gas and everything. So they were like, we want to come up with this happy medium. We're going to let people be able to work from anywhere in their country, and on top of that, you get 90 days per year to be able to go into a different Airbnb country. But also we're going to be having these at least quarterly events where we get everybody to be able to kind of get together and be able to communicate and team build and things like that. And, and they still will have offices for people. Some people want to be in an office. They will still have offices, but that's your choice on if you want to go into one and the degree to which you want to go into it. And I was like, bam, there you go. Yeah, for sure, Matt. I mean, the only thing I miss about an office occasionally is certain aspects of the camaraderie. Really, honestly, what I miss about the office is going to happy hour after the office. That's what I miss about the office. Not being in there. So we'll see. I just thought it was just like, because I've been speaking to a lot of people, not a lot, but I've spoken to a few people recently who are at Goldman, who are at JP Morgan. And they're like, yeah, having this draconian policy of making people come into the office now that they're reinstituting, and they're making it, everybody's got to be in there 4 days a week, and I don't want that, so I'm going to leave. And there's a lot of work opportunities that are out there for me right now. And that's what I've been saying about these banks. Though we did see that JP Morgan just kind of pushed back a little bit on, I guess they got a lot of employee backlash about their office policies, and they're cutting back on it. We saw that headline hit, I think, last week, which it's like, yeah, no duh. Talking to all these people that are like, I'm not going back to that. I'll go work somewhere else. And that's what I've been saying for a while about the talent pool that's out there. Is that, used to be that if you wanted to make the big bucks, you had to work for Goldman and you had to abide by their rules. It's not that way anymore with the tech companies that are out there. Smart people don't have to work at Goldman to make big money where they're working 1 million hours a day and they're miserable while they're doing it. They can pursue something that's entrepreneurial. They can go work for a tech company. They can, there's just so many more options that are out there for people that are going to be able to provide a better work-life balance and everything else. So, I don't know, I'm a big fan of this Airbnb. It's up here a little bit after hours, but it's basically just flat on the day from where it closed yesterday. So the numbers looked decent at a glance. I didn't see any guidance numbers yet, but I don't know. I've been a big fan of Airbnb more or less from the beginning. Airbnb was my best stock of 2021, I think, of the entire calendar year when I crushed this move here, basically like perfectly low to high too. And I honestly haven't traded it much since then. It's one of those names where I'm like always eyeballing it and always kind of want to be involved, but I don't actually get involved for whatever reason. I got a whole list of those things, but scooped a little up here after hours when the report hit. So we'll see. To get into the meat and potatoes of today's meeting, the SPYs closed up 0.5%, the Qs are up 0.35%, and the IWM's up a decent 0.9% here. So we discussed coming into today that basically yesterday's candle tends to give way to a greater than 50% probability of follow through to at least the ADMA. So we didn't quite get there, but we did get some follow through today. I would say that it was extremely sloppy and choppy. We put in a high of almost 419. ADMA on the SPYs is currently at 421. So we're a couple bucks away at this point. We've gotten pretty close to that ADMA on the daily. And again, today's intraday price action was really extremely sloppy. Let's take a look at the Qs. Qs here, similar, got to 321, ADMA is at 322 and change, so just about there. And IWM, which was showing relative strength again today a little bit, though I was a little concerned at a couple points today on the IWM this morning. But by the end of the day, it's up the most of any of the indices. And this one basically tickled the ADMA on the daily chart. So we got to just about that price. So not bad follow through here for the market, but this is going into the Fed day. It tends to be that the day before a Fed day is typically a little bit slower, a little bit choppy because people don't want to make too many big moves right before the Fed. It also tends to be that the Fed day itself, the morning is your typical kind of opening price action, price discovery type period. And then after the open by 10:30, starting like 10:30 to 11, the market is usually very dead till 2 o'clock. Everyone's just waiting. So it's usually not a good idea to really push your trading between 10:30 and 2 tomorrow. Do your opening trades. If you got a good profit cushion on anything, trim and trail like always. Have your game plan in for reward maximization. But then I think you just take a chill pill and you wait for 2 o'clock to come. And then we'll see what happens. It's looking like a certainty on the 50 basis point hike. So what tends to move the market on Fed days is surprises. So let's start with that. And sometimes you'll get maybe like a relief rally if there is no surprise, just because the uncertainty of the situation is out of the way. So it seems like almost 100% certainty at this point that they've really forecasted this 50 basis point hike. So I think that's what we can expect. And obviously a surprise would be a 25 basis point hike. A surprise would be a 75 basis point hike. That is a much, much lower probability situation. I really don't see either of those things occurring. But should that happen, it would probably lend itself to a much bigger move because it's what the market is not expecting. And then we're really going to be looking for language on how big that next hike can be, and also the Fed balance sheet runoff, how it's going to happen, how much it's going to be. I think I remember them saying $40 billion at one point in the past on one of the last Fed meetings, but now that number seems to have morphed into building into $95 billion worth of runoff, with 35 of that being MBS. So that's probably what the market is pricing in at this point. We'll look for language on that, and we'll see how it goes. I think that, and this is my personal thought process, that the market is overpricing in tightening. I don't think it's going to end up being as big as the market's currently pricing in. I think that the Fed is using one of their most powerful tools, which is their words, to really be able to drive some fear into this market, because they understand the power of their words alone can create what we've seen happen for the stock market and the bond market this year. I mean, all we've had so far is a 0.25% hike. Everything else has just been based off the words of the Fed, which includes almost a guarantee of a 50 basis point hike tomorrow. But I think that they know the power of their words, and if their words are enough to create demand destruction by bringing the stock market down, that begins to lower inflation, I do think that there's a real chance that they begin to pull back. But they're going to be data dependent, right? So we need to continue to see what the job and inflation data shows us over time. I'm not sure the date on the next CPI. So that's kind of what we can expect for tomorrow. As far as a further review of today's trading session, look, it was a really choppy session. I think we were able to see that very early on here. This opening action in the SPYs, and Qs and IWM were a little bit looser, but this opening action here, like through 11 o'clock, I feel like this was the tightest the SPYs have been all year. When was the last time we saw the market just get stuck in a $2 range here for the SPYs, right? Intraday support at 414, intraday resistance at 416, and then eventually we broke out here at 11, and that even wasn't a big move, and we were choppy, leaning towards strong for most of the day. But we never lost that 414. When I got off the radio, I was like, guys, 414, 416. And then like the second I got off the radio at 11 is when we broke through the upside. But we continued to kind of hold that intraday support. We got that follow through, which is, again, kind of what we were expecting from the bigger picture, albeit it was a bit choppy. Qs here, also really choppy. I mean, you could just see there was a couple points today. This retest at 316 and this almost retest at 316 here at 220. It was almost like, what is this market doing, right? It's like, looked like we were breaking out. Next thing you know, we're retesting this low. Everyone's getting a little bit nervous. Then we're right back to retesting this 320 resistance. The 320 was like a wall all day. And then we had that kind of a failed break of that wall here, which led to a very sharp pullback intraday. Everyone was like, "Oh my God, is the rally over?" And of course not. Then we ended up going right back to 320. So just super choppy price action. But despite it being choppy, I think that we once again as a team had some really good ideas to kind of focus on. Again, shout out to Matt for getting me involved in this TTI. He started talking about it in the VTF a little bit yesterday. They reported their earnings. The numbers look good. He's more of an expert on it than I am, and seemed to like what they had to say about it. So I got involved in the break of $4. That was kind of the game plan I made for myself, because as much as Matt's provided some really good analysis for us on a lot of these stocks, and he's helped make me some money in tallow, I always want the price action to confirm my thesis or anybody else's thesis. And the price action looked good here. There was a seller at $3.98, refreshing on New York, and then there was like a 25K offer at $4. So I put a buy stop for an entry at $3.99, and I actually got through printed in. And I was like, ooh, I hate that because my level didn't actually break, and I'm in this position, and the seller's still in my face. But I didn't panic out of it. I just put my stop in at the low, and then as a matter of fact, then I put another buy stop in at 99 cents under the exact same thought process. And that one actually triggered and did exactly what it was supposed to do. The 98 seller broke, my 99 triggered. I was able to snap the liquidity that was offered at $4, and then I actually had double the position size that I was originally planning on taking because I did the one entry that I got like through printed in, and then did the second entry. So that one, you know, a little bit cheaper of a stock than I usually like, but I know he thought we could get a big percentage move on it, which I need to have for me to be in a stock that's this cheap, and that turned out to be a really good trade for me. Also, this tallow, which also shout out to Matt for getting me involved in this one back at like 15 bucks. I've been in this, you know, pretty much ever since. I had gotten almost all out, or maybe even all out at 20, and then kind of re-entered on the pullback. So this has been a good trading vehicle for me. $19 was a smaller time frame resistance level that we discussed in the morning meeting today for continuation, and they got that deal done with Chevron. So news, it's one of our layers of probability. It's kind of all coming together. The problem with this was that the opening move was too big. I wanted to buy $19, but I'm looking at it, I'm like, I want to take this ad here at 19 bucks, but I'm not buying $19 and giving it to $18.30. This tallow's treated me well. I still have a position. I don't need the ad at $19. I just thought it could be a good trade. It's not worth it to me for 70 cents worth of risk in a $19 stock. So I didn't take it. And then this thing just built out this beautiful bull flag here right into the $19 area. And it pulled back a little bit right as the ADMA was catching up. And again, timing on flag patterns, that's what you want. Your flags would usually give you continuation once the ADMA catches up to the base. So the ADMA is pulled back a little bit. It's kind of a spready stock, especially for a $19 name. The ADMA caught up to the base of the flag. It's when you look for timing on continuation. I took the offer. I paid the spread. I think I got $19.02 as the entry there. And then it just gave beautiful continuation in the flag, and then spent most of the rest of the day digesting. So that was a really good trade for me as well. A couple other things that were on the radar that I did not get involved in, but worked out really well that we discussed in the morning meeting. One was this VAL. I know that this stock is very thin, so I can't fault anyone who didn't get in just because of liquidity concerns on it. But VAL on earnings, in the morning meeting, I spoke about a buy through 52.50. So if anybody was able to get that buy through the 52.50 area, your risk on this was not too bad for this name. You know, 35 cents worth of risk, and then obviously fantastic $5 worth of follow through. Also discussed MPC in the morning meeting today. This is another one, similar situation here. Earnings, you know, more nearer term resistance at $90. So the buy trigger there was through 90. So I'm not sure if anybody got this one. I did not, but here's your technical ignition bar. Look at the volume on the ignition bar. So this is another one, $90 stock. It would have been about 40 cents worth of risk on this thing if anybody was able to kind of nab that. And then it also gave some pretty good follow through. And then we wanted to see if some of these momentum stocks that have been holding in really well and have been showing relative strength and have been a focus recently could give some further follow through. And they honestly, for the most part, were not great. They were tricky today because I think the price action in the market made them tricky. Like we discussed Facebook, which I know is a little bit different than some of the other growth stocks. We discussed Facebook in the morning meeting, and I mentioned I thought that the break of the inside day could actually be a really tricky buy because the move was so big, and I would prefer people to have stock yesterday, and it did turn out to be that way. It held in really well for people who do have it, but this break of the opening low here, very hard. And then it breaks that low here, just very hard to be able to have stock, so not fantastic. Similar with pins, you know, we had pins on the radar for continuation. This is one that we called out, you know, a couple days ago as well to be long off of this low, and it still showed good relative strength, but the break in the opening low here I think makes any type of intraday execution on that really difficult. I was pretty disappointed with the price action in Path. Path has been one of the growth stocks that I've been focused on. It's gotten super tight here, but it's also shown some relative strength recently. So I wanted to see if this could actually break higher for some follow through, and I couldn't get this thing to break up at all. It was just very sloppy price action. It really turned out that there was pretty much nothing to do there. And that's pretty much it. So we talked about energy stocks, we talked about growth stocks, the energy trade, the energy stocks pretty much all worked. It was really solid, and the growth ones held in, but doing any type of continuation trade or anything like that on them was certainly pretty difficult. And that's pretty much it. Choppy day. So generally you'd be better off today being a bit more patient and not forcing things, especially, midday when we could clearly see that the price action was choppy. You didn't want to force anything, but there were some good opening trades early. And this all leads to us being kind of at technical equilibrium to go into the Fed meeting tomorrow. So we will obviously see tomorrow what happens with that. We'll probably get some wacky price action. And that's all I got. So happy to look at anything that you guys got. So let me just take a look here. All right, so what's AMD doing? Let's get an update on that AMD real quick. Is it still trading up? Nice. What do the AMD numbers look like? I didn't get a chance to look at them because they dropped as the morning meeting was hitting. Not bad. Solid beat on that EPS number, right? Revenue, solid beat. And guidance, revenue guidance is a beat. Gross margin is a beat. This is good. I think the market needs this. This is going to be good for this stock, I think. Feeling Bullish provided me an update on the Airbnb earnings. I'm going to take a look at that after the afternoon meeting. I appreciate you putting that in there. Matt bringing up Pump. What's that? Pro Petro Holding? I'm not sure what this is. I know I've looked at the symbol before. Ooh, yeah, wow, this was really nice today. This was not on my radar, really. Maybe it ought to have been. But you can see that you got this very clear kind of breakout that took place around 1450 or so. So that one was solid. Oh, Pump just printed right now. Got you. So we can look at that tomorrow. Brandon, I think I was talking about AMD. I think those numbers out of AMD are so solid, and the thing is so beaten up that I almost feel like that could be a pretty bullish thing for all the market. $100 is really big resistance. So I'm curious to see if this is going to be good enough to enable this AMD to try to make a run after $100 tomorrow. I'm sure the Fed thing is going to play along with that too. I'm not sure when Intel is. From TG, just to understand the through print that you talked about, your buy stop was at $3.99, and the ECN failed to send your order to another ECN that has a better price. So I'll tell you. Exactly what happens, and this happens all the time in markets. And it used to be, it still kind of is, one of my biggest pet peeves, because technically every through print that occurs in the market is illegal. It's a violation of FINRA rules, but they don't do anything about it because, it's very difficult for the market to act perfectly because you've got all these different exchanges and they're supposed to match each other. So basically what a through print is when a print occurs in the market that is higher than the inside offer or lower than the inside bid. And when it'll usually happen, even though it technically shouldn't, is exactly in the situation in which it happened in TTI. So in TTI, at $3.98, there was only one exchange that was offered at that price. And it's where this pretty big seller was, at $3.98 on New York Stock Exchange. And I'm trying to remember exactly how the order was worked. I think it was one of those orders that we call a resizing order, which is slightly different than a refreshing order. But it's usually in a refreshing type orders, and this is very similar to that, when through prints will occur. So basically, if there's a New York Stock Exchange offer at $3.98, every other ECN and exchange is offered higher than that, and you do a market order to NASDAQ or a market order to ARCA or a market order to any other ECN or exchange outside of New York Stock Exchange, what is supposed to happen is, let's say the only offer, New York Stock Exchange, $3.98, everything else is above that. Let's say at $4, there's a NASDAQ offer. So if you press market buy and you route that market buy to NASDAQ, what's supposed to happen is NASDAQ says, oh, hey, thanks for sending us your order. Our best offer is at $4, but we see that there's a better offer on New York at $3.98. So NASDAQ is supposed to receive that offer, that order, not fill it at their best offer, which is at $4, but reroute it to the New York Stock Exchange, which has a $3.98 offer there, so that the person who did the NASDAQ market buy still gets the best price that's available in the market. That is supposed to be what happens. And if you were watching that thing, there were just prints and prints and prints and prints going off at that 98 cents because that New York Stock Exchange offer, whoever that seller was doing a lot of selling at that price. And then basically, it's almost like a through print happens when the other exchange fails to route it properly. So, and I saw it in the tape. For people who are on Lightspeed, when you see the print get highlighted, like if you see highlighted green or highlighted red, that's a through print. So all of a sudden I saw a couple highlighted prints that went off at $3.99 and $3.98. So that highlighted print that triggered at $3.99, which you know, that buyer should have gotten, that buyer should be pissed also. That buyer should have gotten filled at a better price, but he didn't. He got filled at a higher price. That triggered my stop because technically a print went off $3.99. I got to buy there. It triggers my stop. And I actually got $3.98 on my buy stop, which is the price. You know, that's the best offer. But the problem is that the stop, in theory, should not have even been able to trigger, but yet it did. And by the way, this back when I was younger and I did a lot more shorter time frame scalping and tape reading trading and stuff like that, this would set me off if something like that happened and I lost money. So let's say I specifically had my buy stop at $3.99 because I saw there was a seller at $3.98. I don't want to fight the seller. Maybe that seller is so strong that he starts forcing the entire stock down. I don't want to buy that seller. I don't want to be long the stock when that seller is present. That's why my buy stop was at $3.99. It was above him, but there was also liquidity at $4. So I figured when my buy stop triggers, I'll get the liquidity at $4. That'll limit my slippage, but I'm also only getting long after the seller is actually gone. So my buy stop triggers, I get 98 cents in it. I looked at it, I'm like, ugh, usually that's not good. Because a lot of anybody else who had a buy stop there, a lot of times this then becomes a rush to the exit. People like me or anyone else who just bought this thing and they wanted to buy $4 or $3.99 and their buy stop just triggered and then they're immediately out of the money, a lot of times then they're doing a market sell to be able to get out of it. So there's a real chance that actually creates a negative feedback cycle in a very small time frame of selling. I guess it's technically a positive feedback cycle of selling, where then that triggers my sell stop, which I was using the low at that time. I was just going to use this low, $3.90, so $3.89 as a stop loss. I might have just gotten entered into this position when I shouldn't have technically, and now the thing is stopping me out for a loss, and I lose my $100 per 1,000 shares that I have, and I never should have been in it to begin with. That would have made me furious. But so the options are when that happens, I could just hit out immediately, or I could just wait and put the stop in and hope that the seller breaks. So that's what I did. There was still a ton of pressure that was happening on that 398 seller. So then what I decided to do was I put a whole second buy stop out at 399 and ended up taking double the position that I was originally planning on taking. Because I figured at this point either the seller is going to break and it's probably going to be an even better trade as a result, or I just got suckered in on this other stock and it's going to come down and kind of stop me out. And then the seller actually did break. I think I got the liquidity at $4 that I was looking for on the second entry, and then immediately I was dumping some as like a scalp type trade at, you know, $4.09 and $4.19, just to make sure I got my risk more than covered. And then I was like, okay, now I'm going to be a little bit more greedy with the remainder of my position, and it worked out pretty well. But that is the answer to your question, TG. And that's how it works if you have direct market access. Will can confirm. Will can confirm that that's when I used to get upset. Yep, that's what's supposed to happen, Rich. All right, gang. Does anybody else have anything today? I know it was a rather boring day. We're just waiting on the Fed at this point, but there's some good trades out there. Happy to end the meeting a few minutes early if nobody's got anything, or also, you know, happy to answer any questions if anybody's got any of those. I'll give you a few seconds here, or otherwise I'll wrap things up. You like WTTR tomorrow in the same way that you liked TTI? A little thin volume. Did I even look at the average volume on this TTI? Ooh, this is light for me usually too, but it's a $4 stock. What's this other one? WTTR? Okay. Keep an eye on it. Pretty big. Cool thing about that TTI was it was still kind of reasonable to be looking to buy versus like 387 or $4. It hadn't gapped up too much, and you still kind of had these most recent pivot highs to kind of play versus, and then that liquidity on the tape was nice. But we'll keep an eye on that WTTR also. No, Lightspeed does not work on the weekends. There's no data. All right, gang. I'll wrap things up then. Good day today. You know, hope no one forced trades that weren't there. But if you stuck with the game plan from the morning meeting and you were patient and you're involved in the right things that we discussed, it was another you know, good day where our ideas worked out pretty well. So I'll see everybody tomorrow morning. Have a great night.